Gratitude. Thank you for joining Chats Along the Path with discussions about the 7 transformative practices of the 7-Way Path. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, inviting you to heal, grow, and transform with the 7-Way Path. Thank you for walking the path, and best wishes for your journey. Nature. Welcome to this episode of Chats Along the Path. In this episode, we're speaking with Dana Laquidara, who believes that creativity, simplifying, and healing are all interwoven. She writes about all 3 in her first book, The Uncluttered Mother. Free up your space, mind, and heart. Visit her at danalaquidara.com. Dana, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this chat along the path. I'm so excited to speak with you about the power of cleaning, decluttering, simplifying, and all of those wonderful things. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's just begin. Please do tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll move into talking about decluttering.
Okay. I would say I got interested in the topic of decluttering throughout motherhood. So I think it really started for me in motherhood, and I have 3 daughters, all grown now. But the process of raising them and at the same time trying to have a creative life and work on some creative projects and, all the complexities of life in general really got me yearning to simplify for my whole family, not just for myself, but for my children and my husband as well, for the whole family, because it seemed like life could just go by in a blur. It felt like my daughters' childhoods could go by in a blur if we didn't simplify in a way that could, we could enjoy each day and be more present. And I wanted to be a conscious parent. And it felt like we were often getting ready for the next thing, the next school day and time to do your homework and brush your teeth and for kids, I felt like it was unfair to not slow down, to not allow them their creative time as well as my own. And so I really felt passionate about simplifying in ways that could just, honor our creativity, honor our own instincts, and the joy of parenthood and the joy of childhood. So I began to make changes, some of them small, some of them big, and I would write it down, write about the journey of simplifying as my children were growing up. And at the end of it all, I had a book. That's where The Uncluttered Mother came from. So I didn't actually have it published until September. My children are, grown now, but I wrote it as they were growing. And it really just came from my passion of wanting to simplify life and enjoy life. And that's what got me on that journey. And also, I felt like simplifying opened the way for healing too. I had a wound from childhood that I had sort of partially healed. And the journey of simplifying, I think, made me present enough to my own healing needs so that I could take care of that as well. And that was really a sort of an unexpected gift, I think, of simplifying.
Beautiful. Dana, it almost sounds to me like you accidentally wrote a book, in terms of all of the work that you did, that it was a very long process and writing about it. And then finally it becomes a book. It almost sounds to me like, oops, I wrote a book.
Well, it sort of was like that. I was blogging. So some of the essays from the book were on my blog. Others were published in various places, Literary Mama and Boston Mama, and a few others. But it's true, I wasn't setting out to write a book. And then at the end of the journey, I realized, well, it is enough. Why not put it into a book?
Yes, I love that. And what a simple way in terms of writing a book, very free flowing and almost uncluttered in a sense, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't that what we strive for? Really, is that flow, the not chasing or grasping, but more being in the flow. And so the way the book was written, that was how, like you said, it was sort of accidental. I wasn't really striving. Of course, the publishing process, there was editing and work that goes into it all. But completing the book was really joyful for me.
Yes, wonderful. Dana, so tell us about this experience raising your kids. And, kids bring a lot of clutter with them. And I don't have any of my own children, but I can imagine that raising kids is very much just like you described. You're going to one soccer practice and then to dance class, and then you're here and then you're there. And it's hard to take a moment to stop to breathe, let alone to declutter and simplify, which is really the time when we need it. So can you walk us through that experience for you of decluttering, simplifying, what that meant to you and means to you, and how you did that?
Sure. Oh, it meant so many things to me, because you can declutter, internally and externally. And for the external, as I write about in my book, it was all about the physical environment as well as what was on our calendar. So, I noticed that I felt more stressed, and I think my children did too, if there was too much stuff around us. Kids don't need a million toys to play with. They actually, I think, do a lot better and are calmer and happier with fewer things. And I mean, the amount is different for everybody. There's no set standard of you should have this many things, but to sort of tune into what works for you and your family. And I would make a game of it with my children, go around your room or the house and find 3 things you don't play with anymore. We'll put those away for a while. And so, that was one little game. And another one was when the seasons changed and it was time to take out the summer clothes or the winter clothes, they would, try on things to see what still fit them, and what didn't fit might get passed to the younger sister, or given to Goodwill if it didn't fit anybody. But it was a fun, joyful thing, and for them it was like a little fashion show game. Let's try these things on and pass them on. And I think going about it in a joyful way is so key. It can't be, you can't wait till you're at the point of so stressed out that it's, clean up your stuff, you're driving me crazy, because then there's so much negative energy around that. So I really try to keep it positive, keep it joyful. And my daughters really did adopt that sort of minimalist attitude. I mean, by the time it was time for them to go to college, they were packed up in the whole family in one car with their belongings. We didn't need the U-Haul or the, 3 vehicles or whatever it was. They actually enjoyed simplicity. Now they inspire me. I feel like they got even better at it than I am. And so it was, that was the physical environment. And then the calendar, we tried to stick to things that were important to everybody. If you had an activity that was important, and they did, they all actually enjoyed dance very much. And so that, that took up a lot of time. And so honoring what was important, but not doing things just for the sake of doing them, just for filling the calendar. to allow that time for creativity, for reflection. I mean, some of our best days, I think, were when everybody was at home pursuing their passion or doing something creative. And that, that was important, the schedule. And then I think backing up with schedule, when you think about it, when we send children to school, it's kind of the equivalent of giving an adult a 12-year job, saying, you don't have a choice. You're going to this job for 12 years and you don't get to back out. And for some children, that's fun and they love it or enjoy it or whatever. But, it wasn't always a great thing for my children. They're more on the introverted side. They were creative. They weren't really looking to fill their time. So, for other people to fill their time. So it was important to me when they were in school to let their free time be their free time, except for the activities that they chose. And then I think for myself, just keeping things not cluttered, schedule-wise, environmentally, really helped me to tune into myself and into the healing process and what I needed to do to heal my old childhood wounds, and also tune into, being my own good mother and realizing what I do for my children, what I want for them, and how I care for them are actually the same needs that I have, I should also do for myself. So I think that was a discovery throughout motherhood.
Wow, that is a lot of great stuff, Dana. So it sounds to me like you were really decluttering on multiple levels over the course of all of those years. So, decluttering physically with the stuff, with the games that you played with your kids, which what an incredible way to approach it, because for many people it is very much a kind of a thing, right? But to approach it as a game, especially with kids, that's really awesome. So you've got that physical decluttering, then you've got the decluttering of your schedule and allowing for more free time in it and for more ease and enjoyment. And then you've got the decluttering on the emotional level and the healing. This is a lot of decluttering. Dana.
Yeah, there are so many levels, and you gain so much. You can gain momentum. You start at one level and it can eventually lead to the next. What I find is with getting to the healing, it's so easy to stop before you ever get there, because you can start decluttering physically and even get to a point where, things feel calmer and more peaceful. And that might feel uncomfortable to some people, or, now I'm sort of sitting with myself and I will just gather some more clutter to avoid that uncomfortableness of, what's next, or what feelings are coming up, or what do I need to still deal with? So you really have to, I think in the process, be willing to be uncomfortable and figure out what is next. Don't immediately fill your time or your space right back up.
Wow, that's incredible encouragement, because really what you're saying is that people get to a point where they get rid of so much stuff that it forces them to, I guess, in a sense, focus on their inner stuff. And that's the point of discomfort, where people are saying, okay, bring back that outer stuff so I don't have to deal with the inner stuff. Fill that space with the outer stuff to keep me from having to focus on the inner stuff. That's profound, Dana. Thank you for that. Dana, do you have any recommendations for people who are feeling once they get rid of some things? And we'll talk definitely more about that, including your tips on getting rid of things. But once they're in that space of discomfort, do you have any recommendations or tips for sitting in that discomfort and avoiding bringing more stuff back in?
Right. Well, I think, some of the things you have on your path, like meditation and journaling, and there are tools that really are so helpful. And, those are some that I use. I'm a consistent meditator. I also do yoga. I journal. And, for some people, they might seek out a therapist if what's coming up is too difficult to handle on their own. That's another healthy approach. And I think remembering that what is on the other side of those feelings is really your true authentic self. So it's so worth the journey. You're not going to die from it. You're not going to die from uncomfortable feelings. If you can sit with it, use whatever tools you need to, but allow what needs to come up, you'll know what to do next. You have the wisdom and the intuition, and when all the other stuff isn't blocking that anymore, it's really where you shine, where your light is.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. I love that. So, Dana, how does someone start? So let's say that, well, wait, before I ask that question, how do you know when you need to clear stuff away? Is that a thing that you just say, oh, we need to do this? Or is it a thing that like everyone needs to do?
Well, I think if you are feeling unclear, if you're not sure where you want to go in your life, if you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling overwhelmed, and obviously you don't have to be a parent to feel all those things, then you can start with decluttering. It's a great way to start. And if you start small in your physical environment, to me, that's the easiest place to start. And I mean, you can move on to diet too. That's something we hadn't touched on. But I think if you start small in your physical environment with, what space do you go to in your home that makes you feel a little bit stressed, that you don't feel entirely comfortable there, that you feel just foggy headed, whether it's your desk, needs to be cleared off, or a closet, you're overwhelmed with what's in your closet, or, it can be any area. And if you start there, what I notice is once you start, you're so in the present moment decluttering. Something about decluttering puts people in the present moment. Starting can be the hardest part, but once you do, you gain this momentum. And I think people generally start feeling lighter as they go. And once you have a single closet or desktop cleared off, you feel lighter and you want to do the next thing. You want to move on to the next area. So I think that momentum can be really a great thing. And then, like we talked about, you then may want to move into other areas. What can I declutter from my calendar, from my list in my head, my mental clutter, and all kinds of things.
That's great. So, in other words, just like start with one spot, your one desk that might feel uncomfortable for you to sit at or be near, and start there, and then see what else you might feel drawn or compelled to declutter.
Yes. Just recently, I decided to clear off my writing space, my desk. I kept a bunch of writing books on my desk because I felt like I might need those. As I'm writing, I might need one of those books, but I have several and they were on my desktop and, with some other things. And I finally decided to go put them downstairs in the bookshelf. And once I got down there, I was compelled to clear out the bookshelf and organize that. A few books I ended up giving a few books away. I organized the rest. My writing books are all together down there. So now my desktop is more clear, and I know if I need a writing book, now I know exactly where to find it. I know where on the bookshelf my writing books are. So one thing just sort of led to the other. There was just a momentum to it, and I was just so in the present moment doing it. Time flew by, and then when I was done, the desktop was cleared off, the bookshelf was clear, and I felt clear-headed. That's the thing. It's it really is connected. When your physical environment is well organized, you feel better inside as well.
Yes. Oh, I love it. One thing that I really liked in all of that was this idea of, here's this book that, oh, I feel like I'm going to need that. And so you leave it out because you might need it.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is really powerful. Put it away somewhere. The book itself is not going away. You're going to know where it is if you do indeed need it. I really like that a lot, Dana. That is a great way of thinking about it. So thanks for that tip and that great story of clearing away your own desk.
Right. Sometimes it's so simple, but it really just feels better.
Yes, absolutely. So, Dana, in your experience with your decluttering, we know that you got into this as a mother. Was there one particular thing that happened that made you say enough? Or was it the kind of thing where when your children were young, you were like, oh, we got to turn this ship around right now? Or like, what was that process like? Take me to the time before you were simplifying and decluttering, and what happened to get you to where you are now?
I think it really was a feeling I got, a feeling of, wow, this parenting journey could quickly turn overwhelming. It can be so complex, and I don't want to go through it overwhelmed. I want to go through it in as joyful a way as possible. So it was just a building feeling of, wait, there's got to be a better way to do this, and that I can empower myself, to make choices that make it more joyful and more simple. And it is complicated. I mean, parenting is complicated. Life is complicated. So I think any choices we can make that simplify things in ways that are right for us can really just benefit us so much. And also, I wanted to be present for my children and not always be thinking about what needs to be done next. You hear all the time about the mother's mental load. Our, heads can be so cluttered with everything that we have to do and keep up with. And a lot of that is unavoidable. I mean, we're living life and our children are living lives, but we have control over some of it. There are so many choices we do have control over. And also that feeling of, I never took comfort in numbers. So if many people around me were super busy or overwhelmed, I didn't find comfort in just sort of joining in that, oh yeah, we're all overwhelmed, we're all too busy. I thought, well, no, that's not acceptable. I don't want to accept being too busy, being too cluttered, inside or out, to enjoy each day and to enjoy motherhood. And I think the greatest gift we can give our children is to be present, so that they can, express their feelings or what's on their mind. And if we're too busy or our own minds are so cluttered that we can't be present for them, then we're really missing out. They're missing out too. So, sometimes my daughters would tell me something that was on their mind, and it was in a quiet moment that I had with them that they would come out, and whether it was, something that happened at school or something that was on their mind or something they were worried or anxious about. And I think, well, that conversation may not have happened if we were all too busy. If I didn't take that few minutes to just sit down with them at bedtime or whenever it was and have that quiet time. So I think those moments are so important. We can be with our kids at their sports games or, various things, and all that is wonderful too. But if we don't have those moments, quiet moments alone with them, I think that, we're really missing out.
Yes, I love that. Those quiet, uncluttered moments. So beautiful. Dana, thank you. So you talked about your own experience with decluttering and healing. And can you talk to us more about how those are connected? So, if we have listeners who are saying, okay, I get the decluttering thing, I'm going to clear my space, I'm going to make my life more simple, great. But the healing thing, I don't get how that really works. Can you tell us more about that, Dana?
Sure. Well, I think if we keep ourselves too distracted, and there are so many distractions we can choose from, then it can become a way to not let our own feelings come up. Maybe old wounds, maybe not everybody has old wounds that need to be healed. Maybe it's just stressors they need to allow to come up. For me, there was a significant childhood wound that I really only seriously started dealing with after, well, in early motherhood, because once my daughter was born, I started seeing things from a different lens. My wound had to do with my own mother, being alienated from my own mother as a child. And I thought, wow, what would that be like as a mother, and then I kind of sat with that. I ended up reaching out to my mother, getting her story. I mean, the whole thing, it evolved slowly. It was a long process. And a lot of it is in my memoir, which will be my second book, but that I'm working on that now. But I think the decluttering allowed me the time and the presence to allow that to come up, to think, you know what, here's something I've sort of brushed aside, not ever really dealt with. And now I'm a mother, and it just, I think I needed the clarity. I needed the clearing, I guess, in my own life, to not have too many distractions, too much clutter, in order to allow that to come up, and just sort of trust myself with the timing of it as well. So, and I think, like we were talking about before, it's easier not to. It's easier to stay distracted. It's easier to let inertia keep us going how we're going, and functioning well enough and keeping very busy. But I think that it's such a gift to give yourself and those around you if you kind of allow yourself to go deep, and see what's there and see what you need to deal with.
Thank you, Dana. So Dana, is it the kind of thing where you might be able to access healing through decluttering? So, in other words, to maybe not start with the decluttering to get to the healing, but rather start with the healing and use decluttering as the means. Does that make sense?
Yes. If you start with the healing, I think, lose some of the desire if you're having the courage to do the healing, then I think you lose some of your desire to distract yourself. I mean, initially maybe because it feels uncomfortable, you might want a distraction. But if you get serious about the healing and wanting to be your best self, then the distractions, the unnecessary distractions, will lose their appeal. And then I think as you heal, you might think, well, what else can I declutter, to get even closer to my best self? And that's why, this book, my vision for the book, The Uncluttered Mother, is that mothers get to their divine selves, that they declutter in ways that they find their own magnificent divine selves. And I think for me, through the healing, I thought, oh, well, if I had this trauma happen to me, I need to heal from that. And who might I have been if that hadn't happened to me? And, how much, if I can only access all the memories that I need to get rid of and get that out, maybe that's what I need to do. And eventually what I think what was such a relief is to realize that we have this self that was never harmed, and getting to that self is really the ultimate goal. I think the ultimate gift. So yeah, decluttering sounds so, I don't know, optional, and it is, but it can be so profound if you embark on that journey. But you're right, it can work both ways. You can start with the healing for sure.
Beautiful. Dana, can you tell us about The Uncluttered Mother? So tell us about the book itself. We know that it took you many years of writing, and just talk to us about the book. Like, if we crack that book open, what might we find? What might we experience in that book?
Sure. So I wrote it. It's a series of essays, and I divided it into 3 sections because it was important to me, first of all, that the book itself be organized. And the first section is clutter and calendars. So that's all about my experience with decluttering, the physical environment and the schedules. And there are different essays in there on those areas. And the second section is health and habits. And that's all about decluttering your habits so that you get rid of the ones that aren't serving you well, keep the ones that are serving you well. And that can be anything from, the food that you eat to doing things like meditation or yoga. And then the third section is inspiration and intuition. And I feel that the third section those are the gifts you gain from embarking on the decluttering of the first 2 sections. So, you're clearing the path for your own intuition, for your own creativity to flourish. So it's just in those three sections. The first 2 of the areas of decluttering, and the third is the gifts that I think you gain from the decluttering.
Awesome. Dana, can you talk to us about those gifts? You mentioned creativity, you mentioned inspiration. Can you talk to us about those benefits?
Yes. So I think the more decluttered we are, the more we hear our own intuition. And, that might guide us to deciding what else we want to let go of. It might guide us to what we want to add on to our lives. It could guide people to, switch anything from switching jobs to moving to more simple things. It really, I think, helps us, it's where we tune into our own self. And our own ideas of, what we want and what we need and what we want to give to the world. And the creativity, I find creativity just really flourishes in simplicity. And part of that simplicity is self-care, and decluttering is self-care. So it's a way to take care of yourself so that your creativity can thrive. And I think those can go hand in hand, the intuition and the creativity. Inspiration, I think, comes knocking when it has a clearer vessel. So if we can make ourselves a clearer vessel, it just invites all sorts of good and exciting things.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Dana. I'm really curious to know what, we gave a few tips, but what else might you encourage people to do, to consider about this topic? What else might you like people to know?
Oh gosh, there's just, decluttering covers so much. I think for one thing, it can look different for everybody. So there's no set formula for how to declutter or for what to declutter. So, if it's your passion to collect something, you don't have to declutter or get rid of those things. You decide for yourself what is comfortable for you and your environment, and what overwhelms you or what you think you would benefit from decluttering. Same with your schedule. It's fine to be busy. If there are things that you feel you're meant to be doing, that's great. So it really is very individual. And I don't think anybody can tell you, what you should get rid of. And I think that following your own intuition is the best way. Start small, something that you could declutter, you would benefit from organizing or decluttering, and then go from there and follow your intuition. So I think that's important. And I think, if you are a parent, really honoring your children's intuition too. I mean, there's so much pressure, I think, kids get so much, expectations from the outside, do this and try that and be involved in this. And there are so many wonderful opportunities for them, for a lot of children, which is great. But I think it's important to leave room for their own intuition, for their own creativity, for them to tune into what they want and who they are, and not let all the other voices drown out their own, and to allow them their feelings too. I think that's important as a parent.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much, Dana. This is a great conversation. We could talk for hours and hours about decluttering for sure. And I know that the listeners are really enjoying this. Dana, how can people get your book? How can they get The Uncluttered Mother?
Sure. Well, The Uncluttered Mother is sold really anywhere of that books are sold, all the big places, Amazon, Barnes and Noble online, etc., Apple Books. And you can read more about it if you'd like by visiting my website, which is just my full name, danalaquidara.com. You can also go to the unclutteredmother.com and it will bring you to my website. And I have a blog on there that I call Minimal Monday. And I blog every Monday, just something, hopefully somewhat inspiring about, it could be something I'm working on or a way that I'm decluttering, just, something to spark some inspiration on the journey. And I love to hear from people. You can email me or reach me through my website as well.
Wonderful, Dana. Thank you. Dana, I'm very curious. Here you are, someone who is very knowledgeable about decluttering. You've done lots of decluttering on all levels in your own life. What's been the most challenging aspect for you? What's been the hardest thing to declutter?
Oh, dresses. We all have something that we love. Um, I like clothes. I love dresses. It's hard for me to limit myself. Oh, you should only need four or, whatever. So, I allow myself that indulgence. I don't do it perfectly, for sure. And I have two granddaughters now, two beautiful 4.5-year-old granddaughters. And they have at birthdays and Christmas time. My daughter's very good about, we don't want too many things in our home. So, we don't go crazy with the gifts, but I could see how it would be very tempting as a grandparent to indulge them with, too many things. But I've been pretty good about that because I know what it's like having young children in the house, and it can easily get cluttered. So yeah, I certainly have my own weaknesses. Books. I would say digital clutter is my absolute biggest challenge. Digital clutter, because I don't, even though I enjoy having cleaned out the clutter, I don't enjoy cleaning out the clutter. I'll happily clean out a closet or any area in the house, but when it comes down to sitting at my computer and clearing out the digital clutter, I don't particularly enjoy it, so I procrastinate, and it can quickly build up, until I have an embarrassing number of emails, not because I'm a VIP and have all these emails, just because a lot of it's junk mail too, and I just have not cleared it out. So yeah, that's my biggest decluttering weakness, I would say, digital.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And I'm sure that a lot of people will agree. It struck me listening to you talk about that challenge that decluttering digitally is different from decluttering a closet or something like that, where you are physically moving and you're active and you're in it. And can feel it on a physical kind of level. But when we are digitally decluttering, it's just us staring at a screen.
Right. It's so much less satisfying, but then when it's done, it's satisfying. But the process of it, I find so much less satisfying than physically decluttering.
Yeah, that I can see that. That makes perfect sense for sure. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dana. Dana, any last words for our listeners? Of course, your links will all be in the notes that people can access and get a hold of you.
Sure. I love to hear from people. If you're on a decluttering journey, I'm excited for you. I love to hear about people being on that journey. Feel free to tell me about it, and good luck. And it's a worthwhile pursuit.
Great. Well, Dana, thank you so much. This has been a lovely conversation. I'm sure our listeners have enjoyed it as well. So thank you for being here, Dana. And thank you also very much for listening, sending you blessings and best wishes for your journey. Gratitude. Thanks for tuning in to this chat along the path. Please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for walking the path. Blessings and best wishes for your journey. Journaling, ritual, silence.